Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech, protected.
Chicken comb and comb grow.
Don't be racist, Josh.
Also, good evening. Welcome back to Midnight Media. Tonight, we're reviewing the last voyage of the Demeter.
Nosferatu!
On This Movie Sucks. Effects.
Practical though.
How do we... Wait, you gotta prepare for that, man. Wait, let's do virtual practical effects in post.
What?
Yeah, so Voyage of the Demeter. A lot of mixed opinions on this one, which is good. We like that. Jack, you want to start us off?
Little sparring match. All right, so this steaming pile was introduced to the world in 2023. It's a prequel to the Dracula series.
Are they doing a series off of it?
Or, I mean, this Dracula story, not
Okay,
an
I'll
established
clarify.
series.
It's not a prequel to anything. It is a part of the Dracula novel that they pulled out and made its own thing.
Yeah.
But there are so many different Dracula
pulled it
stories,
out.
I can see how you would think that.
Gruesomely molested it and then made it into a movie.
Well,
Yes.
and even in the book, the chapter is just because I've read the book. Sorry, Josh, I'm better than you. Thank you.
But you haven't seen the Francis Ford Coppola film, so.
I don't even know who that is. The chapter in the book is the captain's log.
Yeah.
So there's not even really that much
Star
detail.
2021.
No.
It's a Star Trek reference. God, you're such a zoomer.
I don't even know what that is. I know Star Trek.
Anyways, so they had a lot of creative freedom making this movie because what it's based on was just
There's not a lot of meat in that chapter, and he's very loose. He's just like, the men are going crazy. They're disappearing one by one. I think this is my last voyage. And then he sails into port, strapped to the wheel like this with a...
Which they did have a scene of.
They had one scene, and I was like, yes, you're doing it. You're referencing the book by Bram Stoker. And then Ray Skywalker cuts him down off of it. Not actually, but same sort of character. Gets really cool out of nowhere for no reason.
Here's a question for you. Was the gypsy chick in the book?
No, the gypsy chick is not in the book. Nobody makes it back alive. And
That's what one of the things that annoyed me was, like, it specifically says no one survives, but of course modern Hollywood needs to make someone survive because they can't write a macabre story anymore or something.
Yep.
Everything is a song when we live in our dreams.
so mad.
Like, no matter how bad they do, they won't change anything they write. It's so annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a weird one. Because, I'm a creature feature guy. Unfortunately, one of the biggest blunders, in my opinion, was doing everything CGI with Dracula. 'Cause I hate that crap. And they had such a great opportunity to do some gnarly practical effects with the gore and with Dracula. But this felt like...
It also wouldn't have been that hard. They just needed to make one Dracula model.
Yeah,
you know, like,
yeah. Well, it's never...
Maybe a few, but
it
was just one thing they needed.
They just needed a guy in a suit that looked good.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it could have been a suit. He's human-sized.
Right. Also, it's just, like you mentioned about it being a creature feature, which is one of my problems with the movie as a whole, is Dracula is not a character that should be adapted to a creature feature, in my opinion. And in the original novel, he is an extremely intelligent person, and that's what makes him so scary. He's not a beast; he's a predator.
Right.
He hunts, he preys. There's a scene in the book, and it's one of my favorite scenes in the book, where he's telling Jonathan Harker about history. And Jonathan remarks in his journal about how he was talking with a passion that only somebody who was there could have.
Right.
And it's in reference to how ancient Dracula is. And in this, he's just this like feral bat creature. And it's just not.
Well, until the ending.
Until the end, but even then it's...
I mean, I get what they're implying, that, through the Voyage of the Demeter, he was, in feral bat creature mode. But again, if they're trying to tie this in with the book, which is what they're attempting to do because it's ripped right out of it, then in order for him to be a feral bat creature at this point, they're kind of skipping over the entire first half where he's dealing with Jonathan Harker, you know what I mean? And slowly coming back and becoming, young again and everything at his castle before he makes the journey, So it's like, if those two things don't match up, how the hell could that have happened if he's then also a bat creature on the boat?
Right.
Like, what did he greet Jonathan Harker as a bat creature and go, ah? You know what I mean? Like,
the only thing I could think of was like how they did portray when he first gets out of the coffin or wakes up on the boat, whatever he does. He's weak, like he can't stand up, so he's kind of like crawling in the shadows and like jumping on people's backs. Maybe in his weakened state he turned more animalistic, but
well, no, what I'm saying is
it's a reach.
The first part of the book is when Jonathan Harker goes to the castle and Dracula's like an old man and he's like, welcome to my castle, and he's like doing this whole thing.
Romania?
Yeah. And then it's only after Jonathan Harker leaves that he's like, I want to go to London and make myself a blah, blah, blah. Wow. So it's like, how does that happen? And then he gets on the boat and suddenly like, oh yes, I also want to be a feral bat creature.
And also in the book, the reason Jonathan Harker goes to his castle at all is because Jonathan Harker is like a realtor.
Yeah.
And Dracula's buying a house in London so he can move to London and have everything set up.
Right. So he's already a normal-ish human.
Right.
How the hell does he switch into this bat creature?
They devolved him.
Yes.
Right. And it just...
Was that something they changed in the movie though? It looked like the townspeople had like captured him, put him. I didn't get why he was in the box.
That was him moving
just to protect himself
secretly.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be based on the book where he's buying this house in London and traveling.
Yeah.
But how the hell is he going to do that if he's a feral bat creature?
Interesting. Right. I would not have known that at all. I thought the townspeople in Romania were just sending him to the British. I thought they were like, and here's one of our women, and we'll just snail you in, and off you go.
Off you go.
Not our problem anymore. That's what I thought.
That is such a better premise. The Romanians are like, take that, the British.
Yeah, like, fuck London. Let's just send them our monster. But I guess that wasn't it.
Makes me proud to be an American whenever I get to slander the British.
Well, now I understand your frustration with that part, because you would have never known that that's what was happening by watching this film.
Yeah. And it's weird to me because when they came up with the premise, they must have known that.
Oh, yeah.
So certainly they read the book, or at least the footnotes.
Yeah.
Maybe they just read the footnotes. A vampire goes to London.
Yeah. But even if you read, like, the freaking spark notes of the first, 30 pages, you'd still be like, okay, he's not a feral bat creature at any point in this. So how the hell, how does a feral bat creature buy a house? It doesn't make any sense.
That was just on this feral bat creature thing. I think that the way he killed people too was way too brutal for Dracula. Like the biting on the neck. In the book, when Lucy Westerner is bit, it's described as like what looks 2 pinpricks.
Well, that's just taking liberties,
Yeah, they might add more gore.
Which I understand, you're making a horror movie, you gotta take some liberties. Fine. But if your underlying story is stupid and doesn't make any sense in context, that's where you got problems.
I think that this movie would have been a lot more, like a lot scarier, like a lot more unsettling, I should say, if Dracula was a very like intelligent hunter that's in the boat and just, you know, you can make it brutal by having him like string people up and do that to just fuck with people.
Yeah.
But I think it would have been scary, the idea of this group of people trapped on this boat with something that's clearly intelligent.
Yeah.
And killing them one by one.
Well,
I'm not locked in here with you. That's it! You're locked in here with me!
I mean,
It's like slightly intelligent because it does stay hidden below deck and out of sight, but then like it's not really. It's just on a rampage.
And then
It leads you to question why it's only killing them one at a time when it can clearly and obviously overpower anyone except for the woman.
Yeah.
Superwoman was on board randomly.
Thank God for her. Also, Jack, you made a great point to me off camera about the hilarious blood transfusion scene.
Oh my God.
Okay.
God, that was dumb.
Let him.
All right, I'm no doctor. I didn't go to med school, but I'm fairly certain, without knowing the other person's blood type or your own, because this was 1897, if I jam a tube in my vein and stick the other end in you, we're both dead.
That makes sense to me.
We're going to die. An unsanitary tube in a dirty deck of a ship. So this guy just randomly trades blood with a woman. It makes no sense at all.
What do you mean?
You need my DNA.
So like a blood transfusion.
You need my inside you.
I was fine with the transfusion because it does happen, and not to keep thumping the book like it's the good book, but it is a great book.
It's not the good book. It's a great book.
In the book, Lucy is kept from fully turning for a while because of blood transfusions.
But they do it in a sterile environment.
In a sterile environment, and it's very like.
And it's not just some guy's blood.
Right,
And it's also never gone like into specifics about it though.
And they also understand they're taking a risk. This guy just risks his life to try and save this random woman.
Well, what he's talking about is blood types, you know?
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Even in the book, they kind of mention that like the blood transfusion's risky because they don't know why, but they know that if you transfuse blood to somebody, there's a chance you're both just gonna fucking die.
It's funny, back then there was like a 1 in 6 chance that it would work.
But I was fine with the blood transfusion, but just. I don't know, man. If some woman fell out of a box full of dirt, it was, to me, all intents and purposes, dead, I would have just been like, let's just throw her overboard, man.
I mean,
I wouldn't have tossed her in the drink, but I mean, he seems to immediately, the main character, played by Corey Hawkins, who I thought was a good actor, but
the acting in this movie was good.
Yeah, but his role in the second half just got butchered in the writing. I don't know what they were doing.
Speaking of acting and roles, I will give this movie one major positive. I thought the child actor was good.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that the movie had the balls to kill him.
Yeah.
I will give it that.
Because they made you like him too.
Yeah.
That's why for the first
And they killed the dog.
60% of this movie, I liked it a lot and got really hyped up and was like, "Man, this is gonna be awesome." And then it gets to the second, half or final third.
Kind of like when Super Gypsy comes about.
Yeah. Well, not even at first. At first, it's actually an interesting point of the story. Like, oh, there's a random chick in there, and she's all beat up, and like was his feed for the trip, which is an interesting and cool thing. But then all of a sudden,
She drinks her spinach.
The Romanian gypsy speaks perfect English. If you remember at the very beginning of the movie, the guy sees the gypsies before they leave the port, and none of them speak English. shock because they're in Romania.
Yeah, well, none of them were female.
Then she
What are you storing in that ovaries?
miraculously heals from her state of near death in like one day. And then
Little
she's
bread and
an
water.
ace shot with a 1800s rifle. She seemingly knows everything that they need to do and when to do it.
Yep.
For no
Gaslight,
reason.
gatekeep, girl boss.
Yeah, she's girl bossing all right.
Those are the three
The
G's.
character made no sense.
Yep.
And all
Yep.
the other ones are man spread, mansplain, manslaughter.
The only reason that Corey Hawkins' character was at all useful, not completely worthless, is because he wasn't one of the European sailors.
Well, that's the thing, is like, it starts off and his role is succinct and makes sense. He's a doctor, those are his skills. I am a surgeon! He gets on the ship to fill that role.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, the burly, seasoned sailors are all getting knocked off left and right, except he's fine.
Yep.
It just doesn't really fit.
Nope. Yeah, and it's weird because, like I said, there was a couple things the movie did right, and then so much that it did poorly that I was like, how do you see this or write this and think this is working? You know?
I do want to shout out David Dasmelchian though, Wojciech, the first mate.
Shut up!
Was
I can't believe you attempted that. I wouldn't have tried it.
I'm fairly certain that's how you pronounce it.
Dasmalchian.
Dasmalchian. David.
He was a good actor.
And his character was really good.
Was he the captain?
No, the
First
first
mate.
mate.
Okay. I really liked the captain too.
Yeah,
captain
he
was
was
good.
great throughout.
And the only scene with him that I didn't love was when he's like, "This is my home. I can't scuttle this ship," and then the other guy's like, "I'm gonna do it if you don't," and he's just like, "No." It's
And I
gotta
like
be me.
at the end, he takes it. He's like, "I'm the only," the first mate guy is like, "I'm the only one who's gonna sink this ship."
Yeah. I do think it was a little bit of a Revenge of the Sith kind of 20-minute hero to baby killer switch, but like I think it would have worked better if somebody else died in between and he was just like, "Yeah, we're not getting off this. I will do it."
True. Yeah, he did change his mind a little too fast.
Yeah.
I have to touch on it because it was something. It was like one of the major derailing lines for me. It's not the premise that the guy went to medical school, got his degree, and like faced racism or discrimination trying to become an actual doctor.
Right.
But his dialogue in that scene was so bad. It amounted to, they were mean to me in 1800s England, so I needed to go find the secrets of the world. Like his motivations were all fucked up, and that dialogue where he explains his life and why he's doing what he's doing was so poorly written. And it didn't need to be.
Nope.
He could have just said, "I wanted to be a doctor, and they don't want people like me to be a doctor there, and that's fucking shitty."
Yeah.
So I took off.
Yep.
But they made it wax poetic and so dumb. God.
Yeah, it could have been a really, interesting take on, because, black people had like a lot more rights in Europe in that time period, So maybe there could have been a black doctor. I don't know,
They had more rights, but it was basically you have the right to not be property.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
they were less
but
racist than we were here.
Right.
I'm saying
for certain.
we don't know for sure that it was impossible for a black person to be a doctor at that time period. So if that was a possibility and something we wanted to explore, you could have done that in an interesting way.
I also think that in
But they
films,
They took like the really cheap racism is why bad stuff happens.
Yeah, exactly.
I also think too, and maybe this is a hot take, but with movies like this, when it comes to racism, and like it felt like the Gypsy Girl was really only there as the female representation. It's fine to play around with, like, one of the crew members could have been a woman, and if you just played it naturally, like.
In the 1800s?
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
In Romania?
It doesn't have to be historically accurate, because at the end of the day, it's a vampire monster on the ship. So why can't we have a fake monster?
I suspend my disbelief at the blood-sucking man. Not that women can be sailors. God damn.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay, but no, I think the way they got her onto the ship was probably the best, most sensical way they could have included a female character. It was just absurd who she ended up.
What her role ended up being.
Her capabilities did not match.
No, I get that. What I'm saying though is, like that, and then like Clemens, like his whole thing is like they didn't let me be a doctor because I was racist. Like it works.
Because he was racist?
No.
I hate those whiteys. I don't want to be a doctor to them.
We gotta get a spray bottle. No, I just mean like in general, it's fine to just not be 100% historically accurate, and that you make a better story by just normalizing these things. Because obviously we know that's how history would have gone, but for the story, it doesn't really matter to me if one of the crewmates was some butch lesbian that was just like, I want to sail the ocean blue, man.
I mean,
sure.
To each his own. It's an opinion. I get it.
I would have much preferred there have been a butch lesbian sailor than an OP gypsy lady.
What is it?
He knows, Mr. Clemens.
That
Fair,
just
fair.
puts the whole film in a tailspin, because like what is she?
Yeah.
Who what?
A gypsy superhero.
She's never explained beyond they stuck her in there to be his food. She
Yep.
doesn't say who. Mm-hmm. She doesn't explain anything at any point.
Yeah.
She just is boss.
Something that my friends and I, Mikey and I, were remarking on that I just remembered because I saw in the notes here, like vampiric thrall. Another problem I had with this movie is the inconsistencies in which people were thralls or not thralls. Like, why was the woman never turned into a thrall, but like the other dude
They
was?
said because of the blood infusions, but then at the end, the reason he lets her sink is because she's finally turning, and she says it's not like I don't want to live like this and just suffer and have to have blood shoved in.
That was the excuse they gave, but like the other guy, Olgarin, turned to a thrall in a few hours, but she'd been fed on her entire life.
Yeah, and you would assume that he didn't swap 100% of her blood out and replace it. Like, I don't know.
And even if he did, like, what they're saying that if you swap out some of someone's blood, then it like snaps them back and they're not thralls for a little while and then they become thralls again. Like that.
It was inconsistent and unclear, and like the scene with the kid turning into a Molotov cocktail was kind of
hilarious.
Yes. A little ridiculous. I think it would have hit a lot harder emotionally if the kid just died and the captain was like, no, I see him moving, I swear. And everybody's like, what the hell are you talking about? And he like goes and rips it back and the kid's just dead.
Yeah.
I think it would have hit way harder for the captain to have tried to, his like subconscious convinces him he saw something. In reality he doesn't, and he just like breaks down as they throw the kid overboard.
Yeah.
I think that would have hit a lot harder as a scene rather than the kid just and then turning into a screaming, flaming monkey.
I did like that it burned the captain's hands. I like that touch.
That was cool,
it didn't
but
make any sense why he burst into flame.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. So this was originally an adaptation of the captain's log, which I guess was
the chapter in the book.
Yeah, the chapter in the book. And then it got stuck in development hell.
Is that why there are 6 different production companies listed here?
Yep.
That's what. Yeah, we were.
So
we were toying with
what
that
I'm guessing
idea.
happened is some producer somewhere was like, "Hey, what if we just took the captain's log section and like made that a movie?" And then someone else was like, "Dude, that could work."
It could have.
Then they snorted a couple
In their
lines.
defense, it could have worked.
And then they were like, "All right, let's get a script writer." So then they hired someone who probably wrote a pretty decent spec script.
Yeah.
And then they were like, "This is good, but like, what if we had like a gypsy woman who was also a superhero?" And then it just slowly like devolved over the course of 2 years of development hell into, you know, insane Dracula bat creature and super gypsy women and black doctors and all this like
All these
nonsense.
fake things that can't exist in a real world.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
What kind of world has women in it? you
Or
know?
black doctors.
Yeah. Not my world.
Well, the saddest thing about the Clemens character is I really liked his character
Yeah.
the first whole half. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't end up disliking his character, just like what they wrote for his dialogue throughout the second
If the
part.
gypsy woman came back to life for like 30 seconds, said like, "Oh, Dracula," and then died, and then it was just him for the rest of the movie, it would have been like, whoop, like you just gained like an extra 20% in my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This movie wasn't the worst piece of trash that I've ever laid eyes upon.
Hey Garrett, this movie sucks.
Yeah, this movie sucks, but it is not as bad as like Jurassic World Dominion, which had me seeing red, pissing, shitting, crying. It was just
All at the same time.
Interesting. I had such a strong distaste for it because it led me to believe it was going to be good for like
What was the show we watched?
60% of it.
This movie
Very
feels
similar to
like
this.
This movie feels like shitting
on the
yourself.
ship.
Yeah.
North.
No, the other one, the first one with the Dalek or whatever the thing was, the bear creature.
Oh, the Toonbach.
Yeah, the Toonbach. Well, what the hell is the name of that one?
Dalek is Doctor Who, my man.
6 hours later.
Hey, before we forget, we should do ratings.
Yeah.
I guess we went your way to me, so we'll start this way this time. I'm gonna give this movie a solid 4. I think it had some, 4.5. Let's do 4.5 because it had some solid potential. They killed the kid, which I respect. I always respect it when a movie has the balls to kill the kid.
But they couldn't kill the gypsy woman.
No,
children.
they did kill the gypsy woman.
I guess. Not when they should have.
They didn't kill her fast enough, Jack. Garrett?
I'm going to give this movie a 4.7. I don't know. What it made at the box office compared to its budget is about what I'd rated it. It is like under half as good as it was supposed to be. Because it had a budget of about $45 million and grossed $21.7 million, and I think that is an apt way to rate this movie.
Interesting. Budget ratings.
Yeah.
Or budgetings, as we call them.
I'm gonna give it.
An
I wish I could
emergency.
rate different elements because I'd like to give all the actors an A+ on their performances. But I can't do that.
Just give them separate ratings and then give it a median score.
Yeah, but
That's a big word for
there
him.
were aspects of it that just negative outliers that drag it down so far. I'm gonna give it a 4
Solid 4.
because it hurt my feelings.
It set me up for
It's gonna
success.
be okay, man.
I thought, I was like, this is gonna be a sick movie. I love boat movies. You know this, historical ships.
Yep.
One of my dreams is to sail off into the sunset on an old recreation of an old ship.
I'll be there. We'll make one.
Sleep with manatees.
That being said, I just remembered that gypsy is now considered a slur, so